makes sense because the order of things, the word and the order and the object, right? How they are described, how they are put together in different languages. It's not necessarily French or English, but in Chinese and Arabic and everything. The interpretation of the society, of the world, and of the human relation, and the hierarchical scale that would exist in all languages in different societies. And how those, that would, of course, refer to what you said, the concept category, for example, the supreme, the God, or deity, and so on. So what we should do is not to escape from this institution, escape from wherever we are, but work from within. Because moreover, we need to detect, or not only to acknowledge, but to detect the subjective articulation of different moments, different historical society, moment or different power relations, how certain people would really appropriate traditional wisdom, but to serve their own power block or power position. Not only in the state, but in the kingdom, the feudal society. And those are more blinding because people will think it's traditional wisdom. So for me, I think here the dilemma we are facing actually is I think acknowledging the hybridization does not solve the problem. We need to see how discursively, institutionally, or in terms of a social structure, this hybridized use, or I would say the syncretism of different terms, they would be put together into a colonial knowledge structure that's functioning in our society. So we need to face our society, the problem, and the colonization that work from within. Like Singapore, it's a corporate state. University is a corporate state, and there's no room for criticism, it seems to me. I don't know enough, but I think in classroom, we need to make room for all students from different, students from China, students from Malaysia, students from Indonesia, from Palestine, from Congo, from South Africa, Philippines, to learn how to be sensitive to the constraints they've been brought up, they've been indoctrinated or cultured, and how to enable them to really free themselves. And in order to free themselves, they have to tackle with their own problems. So it is not only to say that they work on their own society or local case, but because in this classroom with a confrontation or encounter with different cultural background, different issues, they know those things are complicated. Right? So, but they need to address their own issues so that something could be changed. Okay, the next generation could be changed because of every endeavor you work on. That is fun too. So we have students from Malaysia, scholars, students from Vietnam, and so we encourage them to really share their own experience, like film screening, the Zhao Yan and Li Xin were helping out the stranger co-op. They share this screening. And the student would recommend different documentaries that address the critical issues from back home, and they discuss. So those are the moments we can create, right, a platform. So for scholars like Hua Zhen and I, of course we are under this constraint, but we have our creative space every moment, right? We can empower our students, and also we are also free to do other things. So that is just address to come back to the issue, academic decolonization or this intellectual empire. That's not in the past. That's not in the West. That's here. And that we need to unentangle, and also we need to really address, to confront.
Because we have internalized the colonial mentality.
Sure.
So it's not the West out there which is
Right.
the only problem. As I said, for example, the university administrators in many countries where universities are state-run, the policies come not from the administrators but from the ministers of education, and the presidents of the universities are appointed by the ministers of education, and then they put into practice this whole regime of university administration, which is based now on the neoliberal consumerist model that I guess started in America. But by now we have internalized these values.
Sure.
So the system runs on its own.
Sure. Just one word. 21st century, even though it's not really evolving around Europe or US, but maybe more with China, but that's a replica of US system. It's imperialist.
Yes.
It's state, right? So nothing's changed.
In fact, I wanted to also mention, to respond to that even though China is becoming very dominant in many ways, if we're talking about decolonization of knowledge, China is not dominant in that respect. Most students in the world don't want to emulate, Chinese. Everybody wants to be Zizek or Foucault. I don't think there's any Chinese scholar that people want to be like. Right? People are not, unless you are in Chinese studies, and you may be interested in a particular Chinese scholar, but otherwise, no one is trying to emulate or to read, the works of a Chinese scholar. Unlike, you might be in Chinese studies, Japanese studies, Indian studies, or any, area studies, but you'd be interested in Zizek and Foucault. Right? So, I think China hasn't reached hasn't got there yet. So, yeah.
I think so far we don't see any. Even Mao Zedong, I studied him, he has his brilliant moments, but he's also confined in his historical moments. So you cannot deny that he is actually mobilizing the state. Even though he wants the state to be dissolved, but he's still mobilizing the state, the national sentiment. So there are ambiguity already in him.
I think China will go through decolonization in the future, because just like Eastern Europe, Eastern Europe, this system is also a colonial system. We usually probably more that way. Just I recall. Immanuel Wallerstein has a small book, Historical Capitalism. On the last 2 or 3 pages, he attributed more than a dozen of human values toward the socialist world system. So, as he said, that will take over the capitalist world system. But he never think of that socialism and capitalism are like a twin emerged in Europe. It's a very Eurocentric scheme. So even, so like you said, even when we have to consider the alternative on capitalism, sometimes the socialist system as many actually is also very Eurocentric. And I think I can see, China is likely to go through this kind of and now we don't have the power of intellectual purity.
I don't really want to look forward to it. Another imperialism. Are you okay to take more, Pahal, you want to address anything? Or Monica? No? Hui or John? Yeah, and you will join his workshop again tomorrow, right? Pahal, you want to say anything?
No, actually, I wanted to ask some questions, but it's already from others.
Okay,
I
I'll cover
already
it.
have knowledge, and thank you. I got many actually, which till now I found some answers to.
Yeah.
But one only question, and I don't know if you deal with in familiar with countries or Central Asia. What do you think, for example, this current situation in these countries? How you call in which stage? In a neo-colonial or post-colonial? From current situation.
Well, yeah, certainly it's a post-colonial stage in the sense that you are vis-a-vis Soviet Union. But if you accept that language, right? But I guess the decolonial folks don't speak in terms of post-colonial, but they talk about the continuing coloniality of societies. They speak about the colonial metrics of power. And in that sense, the ex-Soviet republics still are in that. Now no longer under the Soviet Union, but under the and Western and the Western colonial kind of influence, right? And maybe some are being drawn into the Turkish orbit from having close relations. I know that Turks have expanded their many Turks are involved in university education in some of those countries. I don't know what in Uzbekistan, whether you have Turkish.
Yeah, it was actually till 1999.
Yeah.
It was influence of Turkish. But in case of Uzbekistan, what happened? This Turkish government gave like political asylum to opposition leader.
Mm.
So after our president said, or you should back to us,
Yeah.
opposition leader,
Yeah.
otherwise we cut relation. So because of ambition of his own ambition of the president,
Yeah.
they cut relation and they closed all Turkish Lyceum, university, some branches,
Yeah.
exchange students, and at that time, 1998, 500 from Uzbekistan, they were studying in Turkey.
Yeah.
So our government forced it to back.
Right.
So they came back and they lost what they spent 1 year, 2 years like this.
Yeah.
But who was not agree, so they became like in blacklist. But in case of Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, still some Turkish universities branch still is work, and they have some Turkish Kazakhstan university, Turkish Kyrgyz university.
Also, since you are from Uzbekistan, it reminds me of something which is also related to what I was saying about religion, about Hinduism. One of the proofs that the construction of Hinduism is a colonial or it's a Eurocentric construction is from an Uzbek. Well, in those days there's no Uzbek nationality. This was from the 12th century. In the 12th century, Abu Rayhan al-Biruni. Al-Biruni was from what is today called Uzbekistan, from a place called Khoraz.
Khoraz.
Yes. he wrote in Arabic. He was Muslim. He spent 13 years in India studying the religions of India. Now, and this also relates to translation, but we're talking about translation. Right? So he wrote a book on India, and I first read it in English. And the book talks about Hindu religion. But then I was under the impression that there was no Hindu religion in his time. Then I went to the Arabic, the original, which Al-Biruni wrote in Arabic. There's no reference to Hindu religion. The translator, now the interesting thing is, the translator is Edward Sachau, a German scholar. In his introduction, he praises Al-Biruni. He says Al-Biruni is the first comparativist of religion. And his approach is very interesting because Al-Biruni allows the Indians to speak for themselves. Okay. So I read that with interest because I said, Edward Sachau does not allow Al-Biruni to speak for himself because he translates, you know. So Al-Biruni says that he's speaking in Arabic, the religions of India, with an S.
Yeah.
Right? But when Sachau translates, he says Hinduism, or the Hindu religion. So what Al-Biruni, what Sachau is doing is orientalizing Al-Biruni. So this is a whole area of problem, of translation. I find it with Ibn Khaldun also, with Al-Biruni, and I'm sure concerning translation of Chinese classics would have the same problem. So how do we untangle all of this mess?
Oriental translation is one kind. Another kind is primitivization. Like